Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the GungHo Collab that has arrived in North America. So, GungHo is actually a very large and very profitable gaming company, and they actually make more than just Puzzle & Dragons. So, it is not a surprise that they have kind of these spillover events where we see characters from other games in Puzzle & Dragons. So, this event is actually going to be spanning for 2 months, basically until the end of October. So, they're not going to be releasing all the content right away. They're going to be kind of having them released in a staggered manner. So I'm going to be releasing my articles also in a staggered manner because there's no point in talking about stuff that may come in a month or two because you might forget. It's best to have them fresh in your mind at the time. So for the entire event, there's going to be 2 new Monster Point cards, 2 new cards in the Monster Exchange system. There will be a special rare machine for GungHo Collab exclusive cards in the future. There will have numerous Palig machine buffs and additions, in addition to like a special dungeon where there is a valuable farmable monster at the end. And basically, it's all going to be released in kind of this staggered manner. So right now, we have the ability to use the Monster Exchange as well as the Monster Point shop. And then we should get the collab dungeon later this week. Hopefully, the Palig machine may be at the end of next week. But again, just check back for GungHo's official announcements to be certain. So, like I said, I'm only going to be talking about the content that is kind of here now or about to be here very shortly. So, the first thing is 750,000 Monster Point cards. So during this whole event for the next 2 months, we will be able to purchase 2 new cards for 750,000 Monster Points. And that is a very large price tag, and I just feel like someone is vacuuming, but basically the idea is with 750,000 Monster Points, we should be able to hopefully purchase something that's going to provide us with enough value or power, such as something like Dark Athena, especially when she first came out, or Amon, who does amazing things on his own for various types of dungeons. So we want to make sure our purchase is actually worthwhile. But with that in mind, Odin Dragon and Ragnarok Dragon tend to be the 2 most universally beneficial Monster Point cards at this point in time, and each of them only cost 300,000. So if you don't have either one of those 2, and you don't have perfect or ideal teams for the new GungHo Collab cards, it would be strongly recommended you probably get yourself an Odin Dragon or a Ragnarok Dragon, because again, these cards are pretty, like, especially Odin Dragon, he's kind of a staple in most teams for pushing through endgame content like Alt Arena. Alright, so the first card is Leo. So Leo is able to change hearts and all hazards, so jammers and poison orbs, into water orbs, as well as providing water attribute cards 3 times attack for 1 turn. And this is on a 15-turn cooldown. So 15-turn cooldown is quite lengthy, but this is greatly offset by his skill charge Awakening. Leader skill, it has many different components, so that also means that he does have some form of damage control. So all water attribute cards have 3 times attack. That's easy enough to achieve. Then all attribute cards have 2 times attack a skill is actually used. So using multiple skills doesn't stack, pretty standard. Then all cards have 3 times attack, 25% damage reduction when you match any 3 of 5 colors. So this brings his grand total leader skill multiplier to 324 times attack and 43.75% damage reduction. So this is a very nice multiplier. So the fact that it also has multiple different components means you are able to kind of scale your damage. Let's say you're facing an absorption spawn that does not have devil or god typing. You're able to deal just 9 times damage to hopefully hit under their threshold. So these Killer Awakenings can be helpful for punching through certain spawns. You have 9 times effective damage, but against spawns where you have damage absorption problems, he's going to be a bit of a liability at the same time. But the biggest drawback of using Leo is that TARDIS is almost mandatory, so to speak, because TARDIS is the only active skill card that is water type with a 1-turn cooldown, and you kind of really need to use him on Leo teams. And the time extend buff is not necessarily needed, I'd say, generally speaking. You probably have enough time extends already. So TARDIS is not fulfilling too much of a role, generally speaking. And this is a bit of a hurdle. Like, this is why, like, Anubis Diablos can have issues, because, like, you have to dedicate one whole subslot to TARDIS. That can be a little problematic. So that is one of the biggest drawbacks of Leo. And of course, if you don't have TARDIS, Leo is almost off the table completely. Having to use water attribute cards can definitely decrease the number of possible subs you can bring and use in the dungeon, because even though they're not going to provide extra health or recovery, having cards that are not dealing the full amount of damage for their multiplier is definitely a large liability. Because when you think about it, they'd only be dealing 2 times 3, that's 6. They only have 36 times attack. That's nothing. So you really need to have water attribute, or you're going to be hitting like a wet noodle without the water somehow. And then being somewhat rainbow reliant can be a liability in case orbs are taken away, but at the same time, it's not full hard rainbow activation like, say, Reach or Riku, so you can use orb changes to give yourself a bit more water orbs at the same time. And Leo does have an assist evolution, but it's quite lackluster for the most part, and definitely not worthwhile if you're planning to spend 750,000 monster points. Another great thing about Leo is that he does have viable leader pairings. Like, you can use Reach, you can use Joyra. And I actually used my Joyra paired with a Leo friend, and I cleared challenge level 10 for the September quest in solo mode reasonably easily. So it does have viable pairings. So again, if you have like leaders like Yuki, Reach, Joyra, you can pair with a Leo friend if you really want to experience what he is all about. But I would say, generally speaking, unless you have TARDIS, unless you don't have any other super strong or stellar leader at this point in time, Leo is definitely a skippable card, especially for that high price tag. So, if I'm not mistaken, I kind of covered all the things except for the Assist Evolution. The Assist Evolution provides you with a single TPA and 20% blind resistance when inherited. So, a TPA is, I guess, nice, but is it worth 750,000 monster points? Probably a big no. And one thing I want to highly stress is that when you make an assist evolution, it is permanent. You can't reverse this. So you could have spent 750,000 monster points and suddenly you have this inherit that you may not actually want. In addition to that, the active skill itself is really only good on his own team. It's not such a great inherit overall, so that is definitely a little problematic. Next is Yuri. I'll say that. Their active skill provides you a 40% of maximum health heal every turn for 6 turns, as well as 1 turn of haste. So this healing component acts like auto healing in that you have your health restored at the end of matching. So you've matched your orbs, dealt your damage, then you receive the healing. So HP sensitive teams like, say, Yogg, or cannot actually use, or Cammy actually is a better example because it's dark, can't use this active skill to keep themselves above their health threshold. So that can be a little problematic. But at the same time, it can act as a very interesting twist on self-healing, especially on teams with large amounts of health pools. Their leader skill is identical to Leo's in the sense that they have the same end result multiplier, but their components are slightly different. They have 3 times attack, 25% damage reduction when matching dark and fire combos. And then they have 3 times attack when matching 3 heart orbs. And then you have 2 times attack on a turn a skill is used. So your end multiplier is the same, the requirements are different, but the requirements for Yuri are harder overall because you have to have specific orbs. Leo is more flexible by comparison. You could use any types of orbs and hit those any 3 of 5 colors, much easier to achieve. Whereas Yuri must have red, dark, and heart orbs. So that amount of restriction does limit her overall leadership potential, because if you play the Xiangmei ranking dungeon, you know you're not going to have your orbs all the time. Yes, it's not 2 hearts, but the point of the matter is it's still going to be a little problematic when you're forced to have specific activation requirements. But again, her subpool is more open. You technically don't have to use red or dark cards, but it's obviously more preferred, but you can use anything you want at the same time. So having natural tape resist can be useful. You don't have to rely on Super Awakenings, so that's good obviously in co-op mode when Super Awakenings are disabled, so it does give a bit of benefit there. Their active skill, like I said, is a kind of cool twist on healing, but is it going to be enough in certain dungeons? And if you use dual leaders, and you basically can loop their active skills all the time, so you can have a permanent 40% health heal for the entire dungeon. But that means you're dedicating 2 of your 6 active skill slots to this self-healing. So is that really worthwhile? Maybe no RCV dungeons can definitely make use of this, but again, you have other solutions for getting across no recovery dungeons. So is it really that needed? Like, I'm not super sold on this card overall. And if you inherit over top of it, it's a 12-turn cooldown, so it can be a little challenging to charge up sometimes. But again, it does have a high attack multiplier. You can stick on high damaging cards, and you can produce meaningful amounts of damage while also having a reasonably easy time at least activating your damage reduction. But I'd say her biggest drawback is the fact that there is no desirable red or dark card that has a 1-turn cooldown, and that definitely is a big issue. Like, you can definitely use TARDIS, but again, he's off color, so your board changers and whatnot won't help him. You could definitely use Cerberus Rider, but Cerberus Rider has terrible stats unless you're using co-op mode, and again, he's only a 2, not 1-turn cooldown. So this leader does have some limitations coming forward, and as a sub, well, they're nothing that special. Tape resist, sure, can be cool in niche situations. 7 combo, it's only 1 7 combo, it's not quite enough overall. So I think it's cool, but again, not worth the 750,000 monster points. So, monster exchange cards. So with September monthly quests, we can get 2 more Rainbow Event medals. Sunken Serpent Labyrinth on Monday will also give another one. So players will be able to have 3 + 3 with 6 by Monday's time potentially. So we would have definitely enough to purchase 1 new card. So these 2 cards that are available, Hanukkah and Arista, like, they are interesting, but they're not necessarily that game changing. So these Rainbow Event medals are a very limited and rare currency. Like, we can't see 2 to 3 months ahead in Japan, so we know what types of dungeons and how many they have been given out. And also another good benefit of being behind is that since we can see 2 to 3 months ahead in the future, we know if something is coming out by that point in time, that means we can use those Rainbow Event medals for. But again, like, these cards here, they're not necessarily that game changing, and if you're able to get 4 of these, there's a strong possibility you already have a strong monster box because they're not that easy to actually acquire. So again, the people who may be able to desperately benefit from this are those who don't actually have the Rainbow Event medals. So just kind of keep this in mind. But just also remember that these cards will be available for 2 months. So again, we basically can see effectively many months into the future. We wait till the very last day, see if anything has been announced that needs Rainbow Event medals. Again, if you're not needing them right now, you can always wait to see if anything better is being released. So the first is Hanukkah. Again, it costs 4 Rainbow Event medals. She has the ability to reduce incoming damage by 50% for 2 turns, along with 50% max health heal for 2 turns. So this works the same way as auto recovery, so it's not going to be that helpful for Yogg teams who need to keep their health high. So that can be a little problematic. Their awakenings are not the greatest overall. Like, it's okay, but they can be converted into a weapon assist form, but their weapon assist form gives you 1 big time extend awakening. So +1 second to orb movement time. Do you really need that for these basically paying these rare event medals? No, you really don't. Next is Arista, and she's much more exciting by comparison. She has double co-op boost awakenings as well as 3 skill boost awakenings. So she basically screams that I am a button-based sub on your button farming teams in co-op, because she will have massive attack stats with her double co-op boost awakening, and 3 skill boost means it helps charge up skills faster, so you can inherit those inherits you stick on her will be able to charge up in time. So this is quite exciting for players who are very gung-ho about button farming. So button farming basically is that you're playing through a dungeon that is reasonably easy, but you're doing so in the fastest and most efficient manner possible. And this is achieved by using co-op boost cards with enough skill boosts and a high damaging nuke like, say, Grimjaw or the Farmable, which I'll be getting to very shortly. And they're able to deal like millions or like 1.5 million plus damage to a single target and execute them. So you just sweep the floor. You don't have to wait for skyfalls. You don't have to wait for animation transitioning from player 1 to player 2. So it's a lot more fast by that idea. But the problem is, unless you're stoning for stamina, you don't need to actually have these button style teams, because yes, you can play the dungeon maybe like 15-30 seconds faster, but if your stamina bar is say 300, are you really saving that much time? Because you're really not playing that much. Maybe you want to drag out the play experience, who knows? But the point of the matter is, this type of card is really niche and specific for those very endgame farming style players who want to min-max their playtime as much as possible. So it is powerful. It puts her on par with like Vrajral, I can't pronounce their names, but they also double co-op boost, double co-op boost, triple skill boost, 10 base cooldown for their active skill. So it's an interesting card definitely, but again, not applicable for the average player. And now the GungHo Collab Dungeon. So the GungHo Collab Dungeon, I believe, comes out on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, and it's very worthwhile playing through because the final boss is actually an incredibly valuable card, and you want to actually farm at least one of them max skilled, and I'll explain why in a moment. But before I do, each clear of the dungeon will award you of 100 PAL points. So that is great because the PAL egg machine that goes with the GungHo Collab is actually very lucrative and very tasty because there's lots of new cards that are definitely worth pulling, and it's free. So you're playing the dungeon, getting free PAL points, you're happy, you're pulling the PAL egg machine more, you're getting this sweet new farmable boss drop at the same time. There will also be a 2-minute time attack dungeon, so you have to clear this dungeon in co-op, solo mode only, in under 2 minutes, and you get 200 PAL points. So basically, if you don't have a co-op partner where you can get half stamina, this is a way for you to get bonus PAL points very easily, so which can be used to roll in the GungHo Collab machine. So the farmable card that I've strongly hinted at is Durandolph. So he is actually a boss in Chronomagia, and he deals 300 times attack to all enemies. It's affected by elemental types and defense at the same time. So this puts them on par of Brachydios level of nuking, but they have a 25 cooldown instead of 18, I believe, for Brachydios. So it's definitely a lot longer, but Durandolph hits all enemies. Brachydios only hits one, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it hits all, I don't recall. But the point matters, it hits all enemies. So there is another farmable option through Satan, and Satan hits only a single enemy for 300 times attack. So that can be problematic if you're facing like a flow of, say, 3 spawns of 700,000 plus health. You can't use true damage, you have to use these button style attacks. And Durandolph can be converted into a weapon assist form, and the weapon assist form is incredibly valuable. Basically, you want to convert him into weapon assist form so you have the ability to inherit him, and you stick him on top of something with a co-op boost awakening. That's a big deal. You have a large nuking damage potential, and again, it hits all enemies, unlike Satan. So having a Satan, having a Durandolph are both very valuable to have. Maybe even having 2 of each of them would be an ideal situation in the long run moving forward. So again, just to reiterate, you want to play the GungHo Collab dungeon for this sweet button style active skill. And again, even if this is not your cup of tea, so to speak, just having it in your monster box for the future is invaluable because it definitely lessens the need for you to roll heavily for like Grimjaws or other button style active skills from like collabs that have poor rolling rates. And again, as I already mentioned beforehand, the PAL egg machine is going to be very lucrative and is definitely worth hoarding your PAL points and saving for. So I will release an article detailing the information of the PAL egg machine when it is officially announced and released, so it's fresher in your memories. But the general gist is it should cost 500 PAL points. It will also have new cards that can be assistable, so it's just great to actually stock up on and roll. So if you have a bunch of PAL points, save them as long as you can. If you have PAL points in your mail, save them unless they're obviously expiring. So again, that should, I'm guessing, come out maybe on Thursday when the PAL egg machine resets. That's usually when they reset, so between Thursday and Friday is when it resets. So we should hopefully have it on Friday, but again, no official confirmation. This is just speculation. So, in conclusion, this GungHo Collab event is quite exciting, but it's mostly exciting for the farmables, most notably Durandolph and the PAL egg machine, which we'll have soon. So again, just save your PAL points, farm the actual collab dungeon, and again, I will have articles for the content as they are released moving forward. So let me know what you think about this event in the comments below. Do you think you'd actually spend the effort farming for Durandolph? Would you want to roll the PAL egg machine? Just let me know how you think about it in the comments below. Hopefully you all have a Mantastic day. I wish you all the best of luck in your own pet adventures, and happy puzzling.